overview of how to do that. I am in no way a budget guru, but I'm going to be using Excel. We're going to build one out here. I'm just showing you one that I've already built out with a couple different ways that you can do that. And as I do this, you'll also learn a few things about Excel as I go through this. So not that you have to put a budget on an Excel sheet, but I do like some of the functions of it. So, I mean, you can have a budget look a variety of ways. I don't know why it won't let me. You could look something like this. But I think more importantly, you just want to be tracking all of your monthly expenses that you have, that your obligations are, and then also what are you bringing in. So if we were to set up a blank sheet, I would, well, hold on, I'm going to highlight an area and then I'm going to insert a table. It's going to build it out like that. And then if you guys want, I'm going to put here, I'm going to do this monthly. And then Excel will just drag out the months for me. I'm not going to go very far. And so what are bills that you guys have monthly right now? If you want to just like yell them out or put them in the chat and Lily can tell me what are things that you guys are obligated to pay. And if it's not now, what are things you look forward to having to pay when you're like living on your own or being independent or moving forward to how you want to live? Give me some ideas of things you got to pay monthly for.
Rent, electricity.
Rent, utilities. I'm going to call it utilities because it could be like gas, electric. What other things? Those are good.
Car insurance, phone.
Yeah. So we've got transportation because it could be car. And you're right. If it's car, it's like what? Gas, car insurance. Maybe you're making a car payment. Maybe you have maintenance you've got to do on your car. So a car could be a whole bunch of things, right? If it's not a car, are you taking the bus? Do you buy a bus pass? Are you paying for gas because someone else you're using their car? Whatever. So yes, transportation. And then you said loans.
Phone.
Phone. Yes.
Danny also said Wi-Fi. He added to that and said Wi-Fi.
Yes. Phone, Wi-Fi. Absolutely. Anything else that you would pay for monthly? And maybe it's not monthly, maybe you're using it weekly, but it adds up over the month.
Other stuff like Hulu, Netflix.
I didn't catch that.
Like Netflix and Hulu entertainment.
Yeah, your I'll say streaming, your entertainment or streaming or subscriptions for sure. Do you guys like to eat? Food's good. Groceries, food. Maybe you're buying like hygiene. I think I spelled that right. Hygiene products like, you know, soap, shampoo, whatever else, razors, deodorant, that kind of stuff. Maybe you're not buying them like all the time like you would buy your milk and eggs and whatever, but you know, you do run out. And maybe you're not spending money on this monthly, but maybe you would need to at times buy new clothes or shoes or different things like that. So I'll put that on there as well. If you have pets, you're buying like pet supplies, right? Like pet food and all that. That's definitely a monthly thing. Any others outside of this? We got a good thing going here. Okay. The only other thing I throw in here that I don't, if you're renting somewhere, you're probably, this is either rolled into your rent or you're not, it's most likely rolled into your rent, would be like your water, sewer, garbage. If you're owning a home, sometime, I mean, that is something you would pay, would be a, oh, what was that?
I just put that under utilities.
Yeah, it could, yes, and it could be. Utilities generally are like your electric and gas, and that would be like your heat and your cooling and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Usually what under on a contract with utilities.
Can't hear you, Danny. I'm so sorry.
I said Utilities usually on a contract, like when you're doing for apartments that make you pay for that stuff, like water, trash, electricity,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. So
yeah,
usually it's under utilities.
yeah. Yep. So that could be under your utilities. All right, I think this is a good list. I would add in there that I would hope that maybe you're able to do and make a priority of putting something aside for savings. And then, I mean, we can talk more about some other things too, like if you wanted to put some money aside for entertainment, if you want to, I mean, someday maybe we'll be able to go back to movies and eating at restaurants. Might not happen right now, but it's money that you would spend to do stuff like that. But so I'm just gonna put that in there as an option. So what is a realistic rent if you're looking at what you need to pay? Anybody wants to throw out a number or put it in the chat, that'd be awesome. I can't see the chat, but
My rent.
what was that?
I pay $6.50 for my rent. That's like the low end of rent.
Okay, 650. Yep, that is pretty low for Spokane area. Anyone else have any ideas or ballpark?
800.
800, yeah, yep. That's a pretty middle of the road. I know Spokane's rent's gone up a lot lately, so people can be looking at 1,000 to 1,200 depending on what setup you have and where it's at. So yeah, I'm gonna throw 800 in here. Yours could be higher, yours could be lower, totally fine. What's an average monthly utilities?
50.
50?
70.
Okay, yep. Yep, again, it depends obviously where you're at, how big your place is, if it's insulated, all those wonderful things. It could be anywhere from 50 to 120. I'm gonna put in like 70. So transportation, for the sake of not getting into all the car stuff, because that can widely vary depending on what you drive, how old it is, your driving record, if it's your insurance, all that kind of stuff. How much is a bus pass? I know right now the buses are free, so that's awesome, but someday they won't be. How much is like a monthly pass?
They're like $50.
Is it 50? Okay. Put
The
50,
adult ones are 60 now.
Monthly bus pass, it's $60.
60?
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. Phone, and this is where we could, and people could be paying depending on if you're on a family plan or you're on a pay as you go. What's a good average for your phone?
I go through Sprint, so I only pay like 45 to $50 a month.
That's not bad. That's good.
I pay 70.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to put 65. What about Wi-Fi?
It's like $60.
Okay.
What Bailey said.
Yeah. Okay.
Wi-Fi is 100 for me because I don't get CenturyLink. So they're like supply and demand. Xfinity makes you pay 100 just for Wi-Fi, nothing else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depends on where you're at.
Yeah. It
Damn,
does. Yeah.
I use Xfinity.
Yeah, it's not even really that fast. I mean, compared to some other one, it's literally just Wi-Fi. They make you pay 100. So that's
I was going to say 60 is not what I'm paying.
Yep.
And we actually got CenturyLink, but they won't provide us a fast enough connection for all the devices in our home. So we had to switch to Xfinity. But
Yep.
yeah.
Classic.
It is. I know. Yeah. So I want the city to just provide it as a basic service, bundle it into a utility, and all of us just get. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing. We're not going to talk about that today. So for your streaming, if you're doing Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, I don't know, I'm losing them all. But any of those, I mean, those run the gamut from anywhere from like $12.99 a month to I've seen 16 or 10 or 7. So it depends on how many you have and what you're using for sure. I'm going to throw in 15 for here just to kind of ballpark it. Or there's Amazon Prime, and that's not monthly. You like pay that in one lump sum, I think. So let's talk about food. For the month, how much do you think you spend? And you may not be just for yourself, whatever your living situation may be. It may be you and it may be others in your home. What's like a ballpark for food for the month?
Food stamps.
Right. Yes. 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 So you wouldn't count that as part of your budget in that you know you're getting that. But what would it be outside of, do you spend anything outside of food stamps?
Not usually.
Okay. So if you were working full time, you would probably not qualify for food stamps anymore. What do you think it would cost you then if the food stamps were gone? What would you be spending about on food?
Like 300, maybe more.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Food's expensive. And there's definite ways to not spend a ton of money on food and try not to waste it and, you know, all the things. But yeah, 400, if it's like you and another person, that's not bad. You easily can go up from there depending on how many people and what you wrap into your food when you're going grocery shopping. Are you buying other things like cleaning supplies for the house, diapers, wipes, all that kind of stuff, you know, because a lot of places you shop, you can pick up all those things. So sometimes saying food isn't the most specific. If you're grabbing other things with it that are just like household supplies and other types of stuff. But I'm going to throw 500 in here just to kind of catch all those things. And then hygiene, like on top of that, you're like soap and shampoo and razors and deodorant and toothpaste and all that kind of stuff. You may not buy that stuff every month, but you're probably picking up a thing here and there as you go. What's a good ballpark number, do you guys think? I'm going to throw 25 in there. We'll call that good. Clothing, any ideas? Does anyone shop for clothes every month?
Really just put 25 for hygiene?
I did, yeah.
Oh God, no.
Do you feel like it's more like 10?
No, it's more like 40.
40? Okay,
Yeah, you want to get something that's gonna last like a month or two?
okay,
Anything? Like 40 fucking bucks altogether. Especially when it comes to like you add in razors, deodorant,
yeah.
shampoo, conditioner, body wash. Cat, if you don't stop messing with that freaking mop.
So I put 25 because my assumption is that you're maybe not buying all the hygiene products every single month. Like if you're buying enough to last you for a month or longer, you would probably like buy the bigger things and then they'd last you, but then you may run out of razors or deodorant or things like that. So I'm kind of ballparking it like you'd maybe set aside.
No.
Does that make sense? Okay. We can, and if you want to build your own, definitely something I encourage you guys to do is to build this out yourself for what your own personal expenses are, or to keep track of receipts or however you're spending to see what it does add up for you personally as you go through a month is a great way to do it too. Does anyone buy clothing monthly? I mean, I don't, but it's nice to have some money set aside when I do need those shoes or I need a coat or I need something different. So, I mean, this number could be different for anybody depending on what you shop, how you shop, what your expectations are, what you need to get. If I put aside, and I'm just looking at me, not like a family, I might put aside anywhere from, I don't know, I'm going to say 50 in there a month, but that may or may not happen, but I'm going to give myself that line item because we just want to add this up and see what are we coming to.
Yeah.
Pets, I know for me, my pets, it's going to cost me almost $100 a month because I've got 2 dogs that are bigger.
Cats are cheap.
What was that?
Cats are cheap. I spend like 23 bucks on litter and food.
Yes, cats are cheap. Yes, they are. My daughter has a cat, and I was impressed through the summer how little she spent on a cat compared to my 2 dogs.
Like 23 bucks a month on them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, my dogs are 60,
They're
50
expensive
pounds.
to take to the vet though. That's where they make up for it.
Yes, yep, that is true. And maybe my dogs are spoiled because I do buy them treats. So there's that. So whatever your pet, you may not have a pet, so this may not even be a line item on your budget, which is totally fair. I'm going to throw in, I'm going to say about 75. This is just stuff I'm putting in for me. I really want to encourage you guys to be thinking about a savings. It's always good to be trying to pay yourself before you're paying others. I understand that sometimes it's like, I got to see what I have left over after I've paid all the bills. As you are looking at taking on a job and working full time and building a career, I really want to encourage you guys to kind of think a little differently and think about how you're paying yourself and how you're setting aside money for yourself first. Otherwise, it can start to feel like you're only working to pay off bills, and that can just get depressing. So think about goals you have or things you want to do and set up either some savings accounts through your bank or credit union. You can set up a number of different savings accounts. You can label them. You can track everything on your phone. You could have something that's like, I want to go on a vacation in the next 6 months, so I'm going to put a little bit of money aside. Or I know I've got this bigger expense because I need to buy tires or something. You could categorize your savings so that you're not getting hit by emergency surprises as much. So thinking about savings, I'm going to put 100 in there. I don't know that that's realistic. I kind of want to build this out just so we can look at what this total is and go from there. Entertainment, I don't know. I got Netflix, but sometimes we like to eat out or spend money. Maybe you want to spend money on a concert. Maybe you want to spend money on buying that next game or things like that. So whatever that would be for you. It doesn't mean you're doing it monthly. You might be, but you might not be. This could also fall into a savings area where you're like, I'm looking forward to doing this thing and it's going to happen in 4 months, and you start putting a little bit of money aside. So I'm going to put in there 25. Again, everybody's could be different. So now I'm going to total this. So the easiest way to do that in here on an Excel is I'm just going to hit auto sum. Let me find it up here at the top. I'm going to move some stuff around. So my auto sum is up there. So there's my total. I'm also going to put this in dollars just to make it easier to read. So my total bills are $1,800, $1,845. That's a lot, right? Let's talk about what it would look like if you worked full time, 40 hours a week, and you're only making minimum wage. We're going to go off that as a baseline. What do you bring in monthly? So minimum wage is, anyone know right now what minimum wage is?
$13.50.
Yes. $13.50. And if you're going to work 40 hours a week, you're making roughly 450. Oh, wait, let's do it differently though. So if you're working 40 hours a week, employers always have the number of 2,080 hours is the number of hours you would work in a year at full time. That's how they make assumptions about payroll and how much they're going to pay you. So if we take 2,080 times 1350, this is what you're looking at bringing in before taxes. So at minimum wage, working 40 hours a week, you're looking at 28,000 roughly. We would add taxes into that. You're going to lose about, and again, this is where it gets different for every person because you have different deductions and different things going on in your life. Ballpark is we could take about 10 to 12% out to look at taxes. There's other things that would maybe be taken out of your payroll. If you're working full time, your employer may also take out some retirement. You may have a health insurance plan, which is something we didn't even put on our budget over here. You might have other payroll deductions that come out. So that could change what your monthly bring home is. So keep that in mind when you sign up for a job and it's full time and you sit down with the HR department and they say, here's our packages we have to offer you. Just be aware that if you're signing up for a healthcare plan with them, it's probably going to be taken right out of your paycheck. So make sure you're factoring that in when you're thinking about what your take home is. So if we take out 12%, let me do 12% of this really quick. Let me do it on my phone so I don't lose the overall number here. So we're gonna, all right, so that did not work out. Hold on. All right, so we're gonna take out roughly 3,000. So this is your roughly annual income minus taxes. If I divide this by 12, we can see what you're bringing home monthly. You're bringing home about 2,000. Again, this could be different. It could be a little more. It could be a little less. All those factors I was just talking about. But if we put 2,000 in here, and then we want to find the difference between what your bills are and then what your take home is, we're going to subtract these two. So we're going to do, let me see if I can remember how to do this.
My Wi-Fi is acting up. So I didn't even hear like at least 2 minutes of this whole conversation.
You'll be able to go back and watch it. I'm recording it, so you can go back and watch it.
Perfect.
I'm probably gonna leave the meeting because once my Wi-Fi acts up, that means my data is scrapped. I have to go to data, and my data is scrapped.
Okay, do your best.
Okay.
Okay. Probably watch the recording when my Wi-Fi does better. I'm gonna leave the meeting right now.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to do a quick formula here in Excel. It's just like a math problem. I'm using the cell addresses, which is their numbers, A, B, and then letters, sorry, and then numbers. Whoops, subtract it out. So this is your difference. If you had this budget of $1,800 in bills, like that was your what's coming out monthly for you, and you're bringing in 2,000, then you're looking at roughly having 155 left over at the end. Now, and something we did point out was that health insurance wasn't put in here, or any other expenses, which I would hope at working full time that you would be put into some kind of program with your employer that offers benefits like that. Also retirement, things like that, that you may have to pay a little bit into, but hopefully they do a matching. These are really cool things to think about when you start doing a full-time job, moving forward in a career. If an employer is going to offer you some kind of matching retirement plan, jump on that. Find a way to put in something, even if it's the minimum, because at your age, this is a fantastic time to start putting away for your retirement. It might seem like forever away, but when you start setting money aside, money makes money. It's one of the wonders of the world, but when you put money aside, money builds on money, and that interest accrues super fast when you're young. To have a good retirement plan, you got to start early, and you can start small. If I wait to my age right now to catch up to where you'll be at, it's going to take me putting in a ton of money up front to even get anywhere near. I don't have a copy of this sheet. I wish I had it. I could see if I could share it later. It's just an example of two people who started saving for their retirement. One person at the age of 20 set aside money for 10 years, and he just put in $2,000 a year. So he invested about $20,000 for 10 years, but $2,000 a year, if you break that down monthly, that's not a lot of money. It's some, but it's not a lot. And then he stopped after 10 years and never put a dime in again. And by the time he comes down to retirement, because that 20,000 is sitting there for the additional 40 some years before he retires at about 63, 65, the math works out that he's got $500,000 set aside in retirement. So then they compare it to a guy who waits and doesn't start until in his 30s. So he starts 10 years later and he puts 2,000 in a year, but he's got to keep putting that in every single year until he retires. He invests way more money and ends up only coming out about the same. He might have 100,000 more at the end. So the lesson is start now, start early, put a little bit aside, don't touch it. And then when you are really looking at a retirement down the road at 60 or whenever you want to retire, having $500,000 set aside is not a bad goal to have, and it's completely doable. For me at my age, if I start right now and I start putting that money aside, it's just not going to happen at that rate. So there's my soapbox for you about your retirement. But at any time you can get a matching retirement plan, jump on it and try to make it work in your budget. And I understand sometimes it just doesn't work, but try to figure out a way to always have a little bit going aside to your retirement and future for that, because it is important. So yes, this is an example budget here. Obviously, people's numbers could be different. And this is going off minimum wage, right? So hopefully as you leave Youth Build and you're looking for that job and that career and moving forward, you're gonna be making way more than minimum wage. So do the math on that as well. If you think you're gonna be making $15 an hour or $17 an hour, what is that gonna look like for you? Times that out. The number for full-time work is 2,080 hours in a year. Do the math, see what you're gonna be bringing in, and start to build that budget. And if you find that you have a number down here of a big surplus every month, it may be tempting to look at that and think, woo, I can eat out all I want and I can do all these things, and that's fun. And for sure you should have some fun and enjoyment in it. But I also really want to encourage you to be thinking about that savings component and how can you put some money aside to save for something more long-term, and not just a retirement, but maybe other things like education, things for kids. Maybe you want to buy a house, maybe you want to buy a better car. Look at some other long-term savings so that you're not just, it's in and it's out, right? Like I don't know where that money went. So think about those things as well for your future. And I don't have anything else after that. I just really wanted to run through a budget. How many people here have a budget already set up? Me, I do. Anyone else budget your money or look at what's coming in and how you're spending it? No? I put you all to sleep.
I
What'd you
definitely
say?
work. Bailey, do you have a budget that you work on, like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that?
Not really. I just hate spending money, so I try not to spend it as much as I can because it stresses me out. I'd rather have it to know that I have it for if I need it.
That's great.
Yeah. Do you all have bank accounts that you're working with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they all should.
I was gonna say, I think they should too if you guys are getting paid. And do you have
Yep.
that on your phone, like as an app, so you can kind of just quickly check in and see your balance and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Something else I didn't touch on, and we could talk about it here or later, is building your credit score and how do you do that and how do you do it wisely. And it does involve having credit, which means generally speaking, that's a credit card. And how do you have that and not go crazy? And how do you use that well? So, I mean, that's something else we can talk about at another time, but
We had a guy maybe a couple weeks before we went into quarantine. We had a guy from SDCU come in and talk about credit.
Perfect.
But it was an hour long, and it's a lot of information that you get in that hour.
Yes.
And I'm not sure everybody was there for it. I think touching on credit again would be a good idea.
Okay.
And just the really good ways he was talking about, the different kinds of like savings loans and credit card loans and all these sorts of things, that it was really good information, but it wasn't necessarily all beginner.
Yeah.
So I think touching on credit would be a good idea as well. And just like how to build that if you don't have any, and how to fix it if you maybe your credit isn't as great as you'd want it to be. I think that'd be a good idea. I definitely have a budget just like that, and have all my food spending. And then I've done a few times, because I'm not good at tracking my food spending specifically. And so I'll go back in and I'll look at my credit card app and I'll track and I'll like add up on my Excel spreadsheet everything that I spent, whether it was groceries or like eating out, right? And I'm usually a lot more than what I had originally budgeted for food, because it's so easy to eat out and things like that. So go back and look at your app if you have that ability and track your spending. Actually go back and see, am I following my budget? Because a lot of times you think you are, but especially with food and things that are so easy to just buy easily at a store or something, it's so easy to not track that, even though you would have a budget, but having the budget and sticking to it are different things, right? Making sure that you're really going back and paying attention to what money is leaving your account.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
I have to make a grocery list when I head into the store because A, I can't remember a darn thing once I walk in there. And B, I will buy 5 to 10 other things that were never ever on my list, but I'm like, oh man, yeah, I need that. And then not get the things I needed, like maybe hand soap or
Right. You got so
paper towel.
distracted.
The reason I went to the store, and then later I'm like, oh crap. So some other ways to just kind of manage your spending is, you know, keeping a list, stick to it, give yourself maybe like an extra item here and there, but nor can I take my son with me into the store if I don't have a list, because we'll just get all the freezer food he wants to eat for the week, and then
Yes. That's
nothing
so funny.
healthy. So yeah, be aware of that as well. But I love going back and checking what you've spent it on. Like if you feel like, man, my money just keeps running out, well, try to
Where
narrow
am I
it down.
spending?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where's that leak in your budget, and see, is it something you can cut out or minimize? And maybe it's not, and then that means maybe reworking the budget to accommodate for that. So yeah, it's a learning process, and it's maybe not everyone's favorite thing to do, but definitely as you're heading into earning more and more money and having more and more obligations, you want to stay on top of it. I see Alex put in the chat that anyone has a rock budget.
It's like anybody else? We have a
Yeah.
rock budget, right?
Huh. Hobbies, maybe we could have put that on the line
A
item.
hobby budget. You like to knit, make sure you're, you know, putting budget in for your yarn and things like that. You want to make sure you can pay for the things you want to do, but you know, your essentials come first.
Yes.
You want
Yarn's
to make sure you have a
expensive.
roof over your head. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. There are those things in your budget, right, that are like absolutes. Like you got to pay that rent, you got to pay that utilities, you know, those kind of things, so that you're not losing those or getting behind. So yeah, prioritize in that way too. And sometimes if you're not getting paid, like I'm getting paid once a month, so I know exactly what's coming in, which in some ways is easier. And then I know exactly, at this point, we know exactly what our bills are for the most part. So we can just subtract that all, and as the bills come and go, we roll it out. But for a while, I was getting paid twice a month, and a lot of people do get paid twice a month. So it's every other week you're getting a paycheck. And that can be a little harder maybe to manage, because now you got to keep track of all your deadlines for your bills. If it's the first of the month, bills, you know, the 1st through the 15th, well, that paycheck might have to cover those, or the paycheck you had before. So managing paycheck timelines and bill timelines can also be another thing to keep in mind as you're doing this as well.
Yep.
But that's it. That's all I got, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with it. It was a little longer than normal. Hope it was helpful. Any last
Yes.
comments, thoughts? Okay, dokie.
Perfect.
All I got. I will see
All right.
one of you
Thanks.
back at 11.
Yep. Definitely. I know. Well, at least 2. We got Bailey and Lexi that'll come back.